Phase 2 is underway, and in order to complete phase 2, we're going to need more power. That's right, we're gonna upgrade our air system. There's a loop that goes across the entire ceiling. That's what that is, a ceiling. And connects it, it's a big rectangle. And then we have one kind of cross beam that goes across here that takes care of these rows, these middle tanks here. I'm going to add a cross beam from here across to there so we can get this new row of tanks, get air to them right here. We already made a few trips to the store. We're gonna get ready, but in order to power these additional outlets, because we already have so many tanks and we're adding more tanks to the main rack system, we're going to increase the power. And Aquarium Co-op, Corey hooked us up, was talking with him, and he goes, hey man, we're starting to carry some pumps. Do you want one for the fish room? We get some that come in with a banged up box, but the pump is good. And I said, I'm your man. So definitely big shout out to them. I appreciate it. I'm gonna stop trying to do this one-handed and get this sucker out of the box. This is the Rolls Royce of air pumps. And if you don't know what Rolls Royce is, this is a really expensive car. But yeah, these are a really nice, they are expensive too. However, it's worth it. I've had one of these running up in this corner. You can't really see it, but up in that corner, I've had one running for 2.5 years now, and it's been so quiet, so efficient, no issues. It's been running anywhere from 20 upwards of now. We've been pushing over 40 tanks with no problem. Since we're gonna be upgrading to much more than that, essentially we just got another one. And this is just a second one of the exact same pump. It's a metal on metal piston, so there's not much wear and tear. There's not a lot of maintenance. Like I said, mine's been running for a few years with I haven't touched it. I know that I've heard they can last up to 10 years with no maintenance whatsoever. The big benefit of these are it's super quiet, there's no maintenance, and it only takes up, I believe, 45 watts. So it's super efficient in terms of, I would say if you're gonna have more than 10, 15 tanks, depending on the size and depending on where they're located, because you want to run this in a centrally located area so you can put on a loop. That's how this works. Another benefit is you could put two of these together in the same loop, so we don't need to make a second loop. Actually, I'm going to put this one on this side of the loop right there. There's already a coupling, so I'm just going to exchange that coupling for a T, and boom, we're good to go. I'm going to attach this pump to the 1-inch loop that I currently have. You may or may not use 1-inch PVC. I recommend 1-inch, maybe 3/4 fine, but I've had success with the 1-inch PVC. The actual pump is just this kind of hard plastic nozzle. And I'm not sure if Aquarium Co-op includes this or this comes with the pump, but it's a soft rubber nozzle, and then you get these two metal clamps, okay? But now you have to figure out how to get it from here to your 1-inch PVC. Now, I did it, I went to Home Depot. It cost me $20, and you may be able to do it cheaper, but this is how I did it, and it should work. Now, I brought this piece with me, but essentially it's a 5/8 inside diameter kind of coupling that's gonna go from here to here. Then I bought some 5-inch diameter tubing. You probably don't need this much, but this is the smallest amount. This was $10, so this was half of the price was this tubing. And then also at the end of that tubing, you're gonna need another hose barb, and this time we want to get to some threading. This piece was actually $4. This was like 25% of the cost. And then you're going to go to this, which is a female PVC. Once again, I think that's is a 3/4-inch PVC threading, which will plug in to your 1-inch T. So this will be the 1-inch T that plugs up into here, and then it will sit like this, and it'll connect to the pump. So as you can see, we don't need like 10 feet of hose. You may need some longer. You may need 30 feet, depending on how far your hose is. I like using some flexible hose to get to the rigid PVC first, though. It's the moment of truth. We are about to hopefully reconnect the system together. As you can see, we have no air. There's no air. There's no air. There's no air. So this system is without air right now. The new pump is in place, but it's not set up. But hopefully this new PVC that we installed, this will give us PVC to this rack. And I made it a loop. Instead of just doing one little dead-ended thing down here, I wanted to continue a loop, so it goes back up and around, and it connects, and it goes to there. So we have all the loop. So hopefully, once I connect this to complete the loop, we should see air in the tank across from us. Oh, there we go. And we should get air over here. There it goes, we can see it. So it's working. So now we just have to, we're gonna drill little holes and add air to all these tanks for this rack system. And then, since we'll be adding so many new lines, we'll turn on this and it'll go. I thought the air system was done, but it's not. We got a third linear air piston pump. When we added this second air pump, we desperately needed it. However, it didn't solve our needs. We originally had this pump and the first one, which are the same model. They are rated up to 40 tanks. We had them in the same loop. It's kind of this big square, rectangle, what have you, with this little offset, and just didn't get enough pressure, not even close. I divided them into two separate loops, which is how they're running right now. Kind of split the fish room in half, and they were running well for a while. But then I really run into issues with the different sponge filters and noticing that on Airstone versus sponge filter versus, you know, obviously a deeper tank, an older sponge filter that was more clogged. These kind of all were working against me, and you know, figuring out the air, it's not an exact science. As you can see, there's a bunch of used sponge filters there. I noticed that the newer sponge filters tend to take up less power. Plus we have, you know, I try to use some 45-degree angles, but if you have 90-degree angles, every time this air is twisting and turning, it's taking up energy, so it's less efficient, less powerful. Long story short, we need to, you know, I started lifting up sponge filters in tanks because you can see this one's barely running. This tank is not that stock, so it's not a huge deal, but I have it kind of propped up on some rocks because the higher it is in the tank, the less power it will take. But I can't risk that. If something were to happen, I'm barely pushing it. So this third pump will help. This is gonna be a little smaller, but it's rated for 20 to 25 tanks, but it should be just enough. I'm hoping that divvying it up into thirds will not only give us more power because we have more power, but also make it more efficient. So it actually should be more than an additional 20 tanks. And the plan is to build another rack system right here where the 125 used to be, of up to like 15, actually it's gonna be 18 tanks. 16 10 gallons and 240 breeders is the plan for this rack system. So that'll be 18 additional tanks. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to put those on the system together. Those 18 plus these, plus a couple of these bigger tanks. I'm hoping that one of these pumps that are rated for up to like 40 lines should be able to do that. And then essentially this pump over here, for this section, we'll have one pump rated for this rack system plus like 2 or 3 of these tanks. I think the goal is going to be to split up this midsection with these deeper tanks and just put, you know, a couple of these deeper lines on each of the pumps. So we're almost finished. We're like 95% of the way there, but we have the loops up and running. We have 3 separate loops now. We'll start over here with the original pump and the original loop. See if we can get out of this glare over here. But we have the original pump, 40 outlet pump, and now it's got a tighter loop. It's kind of this rectangle right here, and it goes down the length of the garage. And essentially that's covering the main rack system now. And then it's also got there's 4 little outlets that are covering a few of these deeper tanks. So that's the main section. It's almost tapped. I could tell that some of this bottom tanks right here, this one's all dirty and stirred up. I could tell that I got 2 outlets in here. This one was going good. This one wasn't going so hot, so I had to raise it a little bit. That first one is just about maxed out, but that's okay. Actually probably gonna take a few tanks off of that one. Then the middle one here, this is the smallest one right now. I kind of just got it running up, and it runs back here, and it just loops around. Eventually I'm gonna add more tanks here onto this one, but essentially this is the new one, and this is a smaller pump, the 20 to 25 outlets. Right now it's only running like 15. This main section over here is 12 tanks, and then 3 10 gallons in the front, so it's 15. And I'm going to potentially tap into that more for these tanks. But the FAR system right now has got the other big pump, up there, and that's more now a tighter rectangle over here, and it's got those 40 breeders, which each have 2, so there's 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, plus 10 along there, so it's got 18. Now I still have 5 tanks here in the middle that aren't hooked up to air yet, and I'm debating whether I want to put them on the far loop or the center loop. The good news is I think I can put them on the far loop for now, and then I can always switch it. These PVC pipes are pre-drilled, so essentially I could just take those 2 pieces of PVC and replace them with one of these lengths, either that length right there, and then that will have those 5 tanks on the center system, or if I take these PVC and replace that loop right there, they'll be on that far PVC system. So I could do that today and then switch it up tomorrow. I can also switch pumps. So I made it really flexible, whereas this pump right now is the bigger pump. However, I can switch that pump out with this pump over here because it's all the same thing. Literally, I could just attach it there, or I could detach it right there. They all plug in the same way. So I kept my options open, and you know, keeping it flexible so I can plug and play down the line, because this won't be the final form. Here's the final form. It's been up and running for months now with no issues. We have all the power that we need, and I decided to put those final tanks on this far loop with the newer big pump that we got from Aquarium Co-op. So now that pump that's rated for 25 up to 40 different tanks is running all these tanks across the side here, as well as these 40 breeders, these 40 breeders, and a couple of these 55 gallons. Then we have that middle smaller pump that's rated for up to 25 tanks. Still have yet to build this, but coming soon. Shout out, future video soon. Really excited about that. You're probably thinking, what the heck? But I promise you, it's gonna be a good one. And middle section over here is still the 15 tanks in that rack system. Plus, we've got, as you can see here, I tapped in 2 over there, and those are running a couple of these. So I had taken a little bit of pressure off the far system and tapped into this. So we still have some power here. We're almost tapped out there, but it all worked out very well. Big thank you once again for the co-op for making this all happen. Can't thank them enough. If you want a detailed video on how to put these loop systems together, what these parts are, where to buy these parts and these valves, click right there. Other fish cave antics right there. As always, I appreciate you watching to the end of the video. Stay positive and stay passionate.